Welcome to the Netherloom Codex. I am your host, Cedric. Tonight's story is of tales based on Arthurian legends, with battles between good and evil, magic and adventure. Please enjoy, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you like stories like this one. The mist clung to the moor like a secret, whispering between the hills. Dawn had not yet broken, and in the shadows of ancient oaks, a cloaked figure rode alone. Sir Bedivere was no stranger to solitude, but this ride felt different. The summons had come in the form of a raven, ink-black, watchful, carrying a scroll sealed with the mark of Merlin. He had not seen the old enchanter since the death of King Arthur, since the day Excalibur was returned to the Lady of the Lake, and Avalon swallowed the last of Camelot's hope. The scroll had spoken of a disturbance, of Arthur's name whispered in the wind, of dark magic stirring in the hollow hills. The Moor was silent as he dismounted at the edge of a ruined stone circle older than Camelot, older than memory. The stones were tall and jagged, carved with runes that pulsed faintly, responding to something just out of sight. The wind shifted, carrying a scent of wood smoke and something older, something primal. "You came," said a voice dry as fallen leaves. From the shadows stepped Merlin. His long cloak rippled like water in the breeze. Time had not aged him as it did other men. His beard was silver now, but his eyes, those eyes, still burned with fierce, ancient light. "I was told Arthur rests in Avalon," Bedivere said, scanning the stones. "Is this a summons to war, old friend?" "No war, not yet," Merlin replied. His voice was hushed, almost reverent. "But the barrier between worlds weakens, the Hollow King stirs." Bedivere's hand instinctively rested on his sword hilt. "You mean Arthur?" Merlin shook his head slowly. "Not Arthur, his shadow, his echo." They sat beneath the stone arch, and Merlin began to speak. Not in spell nor chant, but in quiet memory, a tale never sung by bards nor recorded in tomes. In his final moments, Merlin said, Arthur's soul was torn, the noble part passed to Avalon, but his rage, his sorrow, his fear of betrayal, those darker shards stayed behind. That fragment became the Hollow King, imprisoned in a mirror of our world. Bedivere's grip tightened, and now? "The mirror cracks," Merlin whispered. A deep rumble echoed through the stones. The runes flared, suddenly, blindingly. From the center of the circle, a shape rose. A knight, shattered armor, a face like light fractured through smoke, a crown of thorns upon his helm. "Bedivere," the Hollow King rasped, "I remember you." He stood tall, towering, wrong. His voice wrong, familiar, yet guttural and broken. "You stood beside me as I died. You took my sword. You chose to forget me." Merlin stepped forward, his staff glowing. "He is not Arthur," he said. "Do not listen." But the Hollow King turned to the wizard. "And you, deceiver, you knew the cost of magic. You let me be torn." "Back, shade!" Merlin struck the ground with his staff. Light surged up through the runes. The Hollow King raised one hand. The air rippled. And suddenly, they were surrounded. 1,000 ghostly knights stood at the edge of the circle, armor warped, faces blank, banners of Camelot, blackened, inverted. "This is the army that will rise," the Hollow King said, "when memory dies." Bedivere stepped forward, his sword sang as it cleared the scabbard. "If you are Arthur's pain," he said, "then let me offer peace." The Hollow King struck first. Their blades met. Steel rang against shadow. The clash echoed through the moor. The Hollow King fought like fury itself, rage given form. Every blow carried the weight of betrayal, of broken dreams, of death. Bedivere matched him, though his arms trembled. He remembered Arthur, not just the king, but the man, the dream, the friend. "You were our hope," Bedivere said through clenched teeth, "not our despair." They circled one another, blades flashing, sparks flying. Ghosts watched in silence. Then, Bedivere struck true. The Hollow King stumbled, fell to one knee. Bedivere pressed his blade to the phantom's chest. "You are not forgotten," he said, "but you are not real." The Hollow King screamed, a sound like splintering stars. His form cracked, light exploded outward, then vanished. The ghostly army blinked out, the runes dimmed, the moor returned to silence. Merlin lowered his staff, panting. "You have done what I could not." Bedivere turned to the east, where the sky began to lighten. Arthur was a king of flesh and blood, he said, of hope and grief, not a hollow thing. Merlin nodded slowly. The world will always remember him if men like you endure. They rode away from the circle together. The mist rolled back. The stones slept once more. And far away, deep in Avalon, the surface of a lake rippled. A sword beneath the water stirred, as if for a moment its master had smiled. But peace is rarely final in the old stories. That night, Bedivere dreamed. He stood once more at the edge of the lake, the water glass smooth, the stars wheeling overhead. Across the surface came a voice, not spoken but felt. Guard the memory, it said. When he awoke, the sound of hooves echoed beyond his tent. He emerged, sword in hand, but found only a single white stag watching him from the trees. It held his gaze a long moment before vanishing into the mists. He took this as a sign. In the weeks that followed, Bedivere rode across the realm, visiting the remnants of Arthur's legacy, ruined towers, abandoned castles, forest glades where once the Round Table had camped beneath stars. In each place, he lit a fire, he told the old tales, and he listened. Because the land remembered, because memory was magic. One day, at the ancient chapel where Arthur had once knelt in prayer, Bedivere found a child waiting. Barefoot, curious-eyed, with a wooden sword strapped to his back. Is it true, the boy asked, that King Arthur will return? Bedivere smiled. He never truly left. He knelt and drew a circle in the dust. Inside it, he traced the runes he had seen on the moor. Magic fades when forgotten, he told the boy, but if you carry the stories, the light endures. As the sun rose behind them, the chapel bell, long silent, rang once. Somewhere across the vale, a king slept a little more soundly. And beneath the waters of Avalon, the sword waited, not for war, but for wonder. But legends do not settle easily, and magic once stirred seldom returns to sleep. The season turned. Snow dusted the highlands and frost kissed the edges of the standing stones. Bedivere rode farther north, where the land was older still, where the hills whispered in forgotten tongues and the stars burned colder. In a village lost to time, he met a seer who wove her prophecies in thread. She welcomed him by name, though he had not spoken it. The Hollow King is broken, she said, her eyes white as milk, but his shards remain. You must gather them, or they will cut deeper than any sword. And so his quest began anew. In the craggy heights of Cader Idris, Bedivere fought a worm of shadow and flame. Its eyes burned with fragments of the Hollow King's hate. With Merlin's guidance, he struck it down and buried its heart beneath a cairn of stone. In the haunted marshes of Lurwen, he found a helm once worn by the Hollow King's ghost. When he touched it, visions filled his mind, battles lost and won, friends fallen, betrayals that still bled. Each artifact he gathered, he sealed with runes and placed within a sacred vault hidden beneath Tintagel, a prison of memory, bound by story and song. But darkness is not so easily tamed. In dreams, Bedivere saw a tower rise from the sea, black stone, no windows, a beacon pulsing like a heartbeat. From within came a song, low, aching, ancient, the same song Arthur had sung in his youth, the same melody the Hollow King had twisted. Merlin grew weaker with each passing moon. The magic that sustained him was tied to the balance between Avalon and the mortal world. That balance was fraying. One evening, as frost curled through the trees and the stars glimmered like tears, Merlin spoke of a final path. There is one place where all things meet, he said, the isle at the end of memory. If we reach it, we may seal the breach forever. How do we find it? Bedivere asked. Merlin smiled faintly. We do not find it, we remember it, together. With that, they began the ritual of remembrance. Each night they spoke aloud the names of the fallen, Lancelot, Gawain, Percival, Guinevere. They told tales of joy and sorrow, of glory and grief. They lit fires and sang. And on the 13th night, the mists parted. The isle lay before them, shimmering between waves made of star glass and echo. Its shores were littered with broken swords, each humming with memory. At its heart stood a tree, tall and pale, its leaves like crystal tears, and beneath it, a mirror. Bedivere stepped forward, heart pounding. The mirror showed not his reflection, but his truth, all he had been, all he had lost, and Arthur, young, unbroken, laughing beside a campfire. He wept. Merlin placed a hand upon the mirror. Here the Hollow King can rest. They placed the final shard, Arthur's torn crown, within the roots of the tree. The earth trembled. The mirror shimmered and split, once more not in shattering, but in healing. From the cracks, light spilled upward. The tree drank it in, its branches bloomed. In that moment, the Hollow King was no more. Only Arthur remained, in memory, in myth, in magic. Merlin collapsed beside the roots, a peaceful smile on his face. "It is done," he said. "Guard it well." Bedivere buried him beneath the tree. When he left the isle, it faded behind him, but he felt its presence ever after, like a heartbeat beneath the world. Years passed. The land healed. Tales of Camelot grew softer, richer, deeper. Children once more played at nights. Old songs were sung anew. And Bedivere, now white-haired and quiet, watched it all from the shade of a blossoming hawthorn. One morning, as spring dawned golden, a young girl arrived at his door. She wore armor of polished oak and carried a sword of silvered ash. "I had a dream," she said, "of a king, of a sword, of a mirror and a tree. Is it true?" Bedivere smiled. "Come sit," he said. "I have a story to tell." And so once more the tale began. Far away in Avalon, the lake stirred. The sword waited still, not for a king, but for someone who remembered. And the Hollow King, he was gone. But his lesson remained, that grief unspoken grows claws, that rage, when left to rot, can wear a crown. But memory is the magic that saves us. Even now, especially now. So light the fire, gather close, and listen. For the story continues, and it needs you. The fire crackled, casting warm light across the girl's wide-eyed face. Bedivere leaned back, his voice slow and clear, weaving new threads into the ancient tapestry. "It was not long after the Hollow King was laid to rest that another shadow stirred," he began. This one, quieter, subtler, but no less dangerous. It came from the east, beyond the cliffs of Dumnonia, where storm winds spoke in cruel tones and cliffs wept salt into the sea. Whispers traveled by raven, an order rising, calling itself the Silken Court. They did not wear armor, they wore masks of painted wood and woven leaves. Their blades were words, and their strength was secrecy. At first, Bedivere watched, then he investigated, then he rode. The court believed magic should not be remembered but forgotten, that the old stories, Arthur, Avalon, Merlin, were dangerous lies that made people weak. They burned libraries, silenced druids, broke sacred stones, and so Bedivere gathered allies. He found Nimue, the Lady of the Lake, walking in mortal form along the banks of the Severn. Her eyes shimmered with the sadness of centuries. "I am the last drop of the first spring," she told him, "but I will help." Together, they journeyed to the ruins of Caliburn, where the old forge still whispered. There they awoke the sleeping golems of bronze, ancient guardians meant to protect magic's memory. In the Vale of the Nine, Bedivere found the descendants of Morgan Le Fay, not witches but stewards of balance. They too joined the cause. The Silken Court struck first, setting fire to the forests of Myrddin's Hollow, blinding the owls of prophecy, poisoning the well of echoes. Battle followed, not of swords but of song, of dream, of memory. The court used spells to erase entire towns from recollection. But Bedivere and Nimue, with the help of the last bard knights, sang them back into the world. In one epic confrontation on the cliffs of Ardu, the sky split in two, half sun, half storm, and Bedivere faced the masked archivist, the court's cruelest voice. "You fight for ghosts," the archivist hissed, "for myths that rot the mind." "I fight," said Bedivere, "for memory, for truth wrapped in wonder." Their duel lasted till moonset. When dawn came, the archivist's mask cracked. Beneath it was a face like a mirror, one that reflected Bedivere's own doubt. He did not slay her. Instead, he sang her name, a name long lost, hidden even from herself. She wept and disappeared into mist. With her fall, the Silken Court fractured. Its remnants fled into the forgotten corners of Britain. But peace was never permanent. A generation later, the girl who had come to Bedivere's door, her name was Elan, took up his sword. She journeyed to the northern isles, where dragons whispered of a new king not yet born, but already hunted. She walked the ghost roads to where Arthur's soul was said to drift. between Avalon and waking. She met the dreaming stag, who gifted her antlers of insight. She defeated the fallow queen, who had frozen time in her bitter grief. And when she returned, she found Camelot not in ruins, but waiting. Not a place of stone, but a place of promise. Together with the Bard Knights, Elan reforged the Round Table, not as a court of war, but of wonder. Each knight bore a title not of conquest, but of craft. The Knight of Story, the Knight of Sky, the Knight of Roots, the Knight of Firelight. They carried no banners, only memories. And in a chamber beneath the stars, guarded by roses that never wilted, the mirror still stood, still healing, still remembering. Bedivere, now older than most trees, visited only once more. He placed a final token beneath the tree, a stone etched with Elan's first words to him. "Is it true?" He smiled. "Yes," he whispered to the stars, "it always was." And so it continues. New quests, new legends, new hollow kings to face, within and without. But always, always, the thread returns to memory. To those who choose to remember. To those who light the fire and gather close. To those who ask, "Is it true?" and choose to believe. End of Part 1, The Hollow King. Part 2 coming soon, The Crown of Roots, a continuation of Elan's journey, the awakening of a future king, and the return of the Mirror's song.